The massive passenger ship New Horizon floated through space like a bright silver needle. Inside the ship, hundreds of people traveled between the stars. They were going to new worlds to start new lives. The ship had been flying for 3 days now, and most passengers had settled into their routines. Dr. Marcus Johnson sat in seat 24A with his family around him. His wife, Dr. Lisa Johnson, was reading a book about alien plants. Their twin children, Alex and Maya, were playing a quiet game on their shared tablet. The family looked happy and relaxed as they traveled to their new home on a planet called Kepler 442b. Alex suddenly started laughing. He was trying to copy the way their dog buddy used to chase his own tail back on Earth. The boy spun around in his seat, making silly faces and panting like a dog. Maya giggled at her brother's performance. Lisa smiled and shook her head at her son's funny behavior. Marcus chuckled as he watched his children. "Remember when Buddy got stuck under the kitchen table?" he said quietly to his family. "He kept spinning and couldn't figure out how to get out." The family laughed together, but they kept their voices low. They were careful not to bother other passengers. Their laughter was warm and gentle, the kind that families share when they remember good times together. Karen Wright was walking down the aisle checking on passengers. She was a flight attendant who had worked on spaceships for 10 years. Karen had short blonde hair and always kept her uniform perfectly clean. She took pride in running a quiet, orderly ship. When Karen heard the Johnson family laughing, she stopped walking. She looked at them with a frown on her face. The family was not being loud, but Karen felt annoyed anyway. She walked over to their seats with quick, angry steps. "Excuse me," Karen said in a sharp voice. "You need to keep it down over here." Marcus looked up at Karen with surprise. "I'm sorry, were we being too loud? We can speak more quietly. Some passengers know how to behave properly on a civilized ship," Karen said. Her voice was cold and unfriendly. "Others need to be reminded about proper conduct." Lisa felt uncomfortable with the way Karen was looking at her family. "We were just sharing a family memory," she said politely. "We weren't trying to disturb anyone." Karen crossed her arms and stared down at the family. "Well, certain passengers seem to think the rules don't apply to them. This isn't your living room. Other people paid good money for a peaceful journey." Alex and Maya stopped smiling. They could tell the flight attendant was angry with them, but they didn't understand why. They had been laughing quietly with their parents. Other passengers around them had been talking much louder. Marcus felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice calm. "Ma'am, we understand the need to be considerate of other passengers. We were speaking quietly and will continue to do so." "Don't tell me how to do my job," Karen snapped. "I've been working on ships like this for years. I know disruptive behavior when I see it." Several other passengers turned to look at what was happening. An elderly man in the seat across the aisle frowned at Karen's harsh tone. A young woman with red hair shook her head in disapproval. The passengers could see that the Johnson family had done nothing wrong. Karen noticed people watching her, but instead of backing down, she became more aggressive. "If you can't follow simple rules about keeping quiet, maybe you should have stayed on Earth where that kind of behavior is acceptable." Lisa's hands clenched in her lap. She had heard comments like this before in her life. The words stung, but she didn't want to make a scene in front of her children. Marcus stood up slowly. He was a tall man with kind eyes, but now those eyes were serious. "I think there's been a misunderstanding here. My family and I have been nothing but respectful since we boarded this ship." "Sit down," Karen ordered, "and keep your family under control, or I'll have you removed at the next station. We don't tolerate troublemakers on this ship." The word troublemakers hung in the air like poison. Everyone nearby could hear the unfairness in it. The Johnson family had been laughing quietly together, something families do everywhere in the galaxy. But Karen was treating them like criminals. Alex looked up at his father with worried eyes. Maya moved closer to her mother. The children didn't fully understand what was happening, but they knew it wasn't right. Marcus felt anger building inside him, but he also felt something else. He felt disappointed in humanity. Here they were, traveling between the stars, and some people still carried old prejudices with them. After all the progress humans had made, after all the new worlds they had discovered, Some things never seemed to change. "We'll be quiet," Marcus said finally, sitting back down. But his mind was already working on something else. He was thinking about a phone call he needed to make. Karen walked away with a satisfied look on her face. She thought she had handled the situation well. She had no idea that the quiet man in seat 24A was about to change her life forever. Chatri. Johnson family sat in uncomfortable silence for several minutes. Other passengers kept glancing at them with sympathetic looks. The elderly man across the aisle gave Marcus a small nod that said he understood the unfairness of what had just happened. Marcus pulled out his communication device and stared at it for a long moment. He had spent years trying to build bridges between different groups of people, both human and alien. He had devoted his life to teaching others that cooperation was better than conflict. But sometimes, he thought, people needed to learn lessons the hard way. He began to dial a very important number. Marcus Johnson looked at his communication device for a long time. His finger moved over the screen, but he didn't press anything yet. Lisa watched her husband with concern. She knew that look on his face. Marcus was making a decision that would change everything. "Dad, are you okay?" Alex whispered. The boy was still upset about what the flight attendant had said to them. "I'm fine, son," Marcus replied quietly. "But some things need to be fixed." Marcus pressed a series of numbers on his device. The call connected after 3 rings. A woman's voice came through clearly. "Admiral Cole speaking, this is a secure line. Patricia, it's Marcus Johnson. I need to speak with you about a situation." There was a pause on the other end. Admiral Patricia Cole had known Marcus for 15 years. She had never heard him sound this serious unless lives were at stake. "Marcus, where are you right now?" Admiral Cole asked. "I'm aboard the passenger ship New Horizon, traveling to Kepler 442b with my family. We've encountered a problem." Admiral Cole sat up straight at her desk on Earth. The New Horizon was carrying some of humanity's most important people to the new colony world. Marcus Johnson and his family were at the top of that list. "What kind of problem?" she asked. Marcus looked around to make sure no one was listening. "A crew member has decided that my family doesn't belong on this ship. She's made that very clear to everyone around us." Admiral Cole felt her blood pressure rise. She knew exactly what Marcus meant without him having to explain. "Are you and your family safe?" "For now, yes. But Patricia, this person threatened to have us removed at the next station. She called us troublemakers in front of dozens of passengers." "Give me the details," Admiral Cole said. Her voice was now cold and professional. Marcus explained what had happened with Karen Wright. He told Admiral Cole about the flight attendant's comments and threats. He described how his children had been made to feel unwelcome on the ship that was taking them to their new home. When Marcus finished talking, Admiral Cole was quiet for several seconds. Then she spoke in a voice that could cut steel. "Marcus, you and your family are under my protection. What's happening to you is completely unacceptable. I'm going to patch you through to Captain Hayes right now." "Benjamin Hayes?" Marcus asked. "He's still commanding the Endeavor?" "Yes, and he's in your sector right now. Hold the line." Lisa looked at her husband with growing concern. She recognized the names he was mentioning. These were not ordinary people her husband was calling. These were some of the most powerful people in human space. The communication device beeped as Admiral Cole transferred the call. A man's deep voice came through the speaker. "Dr. Johnson, this is Captain Hayes. Admiral Cole has briefed me on your situation. I want you to know that what's happening to you is completely wrong. Thank you, Benjamin. I didn't want to make this call, but my family's safety might be at risk." Captain Hayes was sitting on the bridge of the Endeavor, one of humanity's most advanced ships. When he heard about the situation, his crew could see anger flash across his face. "Marcus, you've saved more human lives than anyone in the galaxy. The work you've done with alien species has prevented wars that could have destroyed us all. No one has the right to treat you or your family this way." Maya looked at her father with wide eyes. She was starting to understand that her dad was more important than she had realized. Alex leaned closer to listen to the conversation. "I need you to activate Protocol 7, Marcus said quietly into the device. Captain Hayes paused. Protocol 7 was only used in the most serious situations. It gave certain people emergency protection anywhere in human space. Are you sure that's necessary, Marcus? A crew member threatened to remove my family from this ship. She did it in front of witnesses. If she's willing to do that, I don't know what else she might try. Protocol 7 is now active, Captain Hayes said. Your family is under full diplomatic protection. I'm ordering the New Horizon to stop and wait for our arrival. You're coming here? Marcus asked. The Endeavor is 2 hours away from your position. We'll be there soon. Lisa grabbed Marcus's arm. What's Protocol 7? She whispered. Marcus covered the device with his hand. It means we're now under the same protection as Earth's ambassadors to alien worlds. On the other end of the call, Captain Hayes was already giving orders to his crew. Navigation. Set course for the New Horizon immediately. Maximum speed. Captain, should we inform them we're coming? Asked his communications officer. Not yet. I want to see how they handle this situation first. Captain Hayes turned back to his conversation with Marcus. Dr. Johnson, I need you and your family to stay calm and stay together. Don't engage with the crew member who caused this problem. We'll handle everything when we arrive. Understood, Marcus replied. And Marcus, Captain Hayes added, I want you to know that every person on my ship respects what you've done for humanity. Your family deserves to travel with dignity and safety. The call ended, and Marcus put his device away. He looked at his wife and children who were all staring at him with questions in their eyes. Dad, Maya said softly. Who are those people you were talking to? Marcus smiled at his daughter. They're friends who make sure that good people are treated fairly. Lisa wasn't satisfied with that answer. Marcus, what haven't you told us about your work? Before Marcus could answer, they heard an announcement over the ship's speakers. Captain Rodriguez's voice filled the passenger cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, we have received orders to halt our journey temporarily. Please remain in your seats while we address this situation. We apologize for any inconvenience. Karen Wright was walking past the Johnson family when she heard the announcement. She stopped and looked at them with suspicion. Did you people have something to do with this? She demanded. Marcus looked up at Karen calmly. Ma'am, I think you should probably go check with your captain about what's happening. Karen's face turned red with anger. She was about to say something harsh when another flight attendant grabbed her arm. Karen, Captain Rodriguez wants to see you on the bridge right now, the other attendant said urgently. As Karen walked away, Marcus reached over and took Lisa's hand. Everything is going to be all right, he told his family. But deep down, Marcus knew that Karen Wright's life was about to change forever. She had no idea what she had started when she decided to threaten his family. Captain Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the New Horizon with a confused look on his face. He had been commanding passenger ships for 20 years, but he had never received an order like this one. The message from Earth Defense Command was clear. Stop the ship immediately and wait for further instructions. Sir, we're holding position as ordered, reported his navigation officer, but I don't understand why we've stopped in the middle of empty space. Captain Rodriguez read the message again. It came with priority alpha clearance, which meant it was more important than anything else in human space. Only a few people in the entire galaxy had the authority to send such orders. Captain, the flight attendant Karen Wright is here to see you, announced his communications officer. Send her in, Captain Rodriguez said. He was hoping Karen might know something about what was happening. Karen walked onto the bridge with angry steps. Her face was red and her hands were shaking with rage. Captain, I need to report some troublemaker passengers who are disrupting the entire ship. Captain Rodriguez looked at Karen with tired eyes. Karen, we have bigger problems right now. Earth Defense Command has ordered us to stop and wait. Do you know anything about this? It's those people in Section 24, Karen said loudly. The Johnson family. They've been causing problems since they got on board. Now they've probably contacted someone to complain about me doing my job. Captain Rodriguez felt a cold feeling in his stomach. What exactly happened with the Johnson family? Karen crossed her arms and spoke with pride in her voice. They were being loud and disrespectful. I told them to behave properly or I would have them removed at the next station. Someone needs to teach certain people how to act in civilized company. The captain stared at Karen in shock. He had reviewed the passenger list when they left Earth. Dr. Marcus Johnson was listed as a VIP passenger with special clearance. His wife, Dr. Lisa Johnson, also had high-level credentials. "Karen, did you threaten to remove the Johnson family from this ship?" Captain Rodriguez asked slowly. "Of course I did. They were being disruptive. I have the authority to maintain order on this ship." Captain Rodriguez felt his face go pale. He grabbed his communication device and quickly looked up the Johnson family file. What he saw made his hands shake. Dr. Marcus Johnson was listed as Earth's chief xenobiological advisor. His security clearance was higher than the captain's own clearance. The file showed that Marcus had been involved in first contact with 12 different alien species. His work had prevented 3 potential wars between humans and aliens. "Karen," Captain Rodriguez said in a whisper, "do you know who Dr. Marcus Johnson is?" "I don't care who he thinks he is," Karen replied. "Bad behavior is bad behavior, no matter what someone's job is." The captain's communication device started beeping with an urgent message. He read it quickly and felt his legs go weak. "Captain Rodriguez, this is Admiral Cole from Earth Defense Command. Dr. Marcus Johnson and his family are now under diplomatic protection. Any threats made against them are considered threats against Earth security. Please confirm their safety immediately." "Captain," Rodriguez looked at Karen with horror in his eyes. "Karen, you just threatened one of the most important people in human space. Dr. Johnson has saved millions of lives through his work with alien species." Karen's confident smile started to fade. "What do you mean?" "I mean you threatened to remove the man who taught us how to communicate with aliens without starting wars. You called him a troublemaker in front of other passengers." The color drained from Karen's face. She sat down heavily in a nearby chair. Meanwhile, in the passenger section, other travelers were getting restless. The ship had been stopped for over an hour with no explanation. Some people were complaining loudly about the delay. A businessman, in an expensive suit, stood up and shouted, "This is ridiculous. I have important meetings on Kepler 442b. Someone needs to explain why we're sitting here doing nothing." An elderly woman agreed with him. "I paid good money for this ticket. We should be moving toward our destination, not floating in space." But not everyone was angry about the delay. The elderly man who sat across from the Johnson family had been watching them carefully. He could see that Marcus was calm while his wife and children looked worried. "Excuse me," the elderly man said to Marcus. "I couldn't help but notice what happened earlier with the flight attendant. That was completely unfair to your family." Marcus nodded politely. "Thank you for saying that. It means a lot to us." "I'm retired military," the old man continued. "I've seen discrimination before, and what happened to you was wrong. That woman had no right to speak to your family that way." A young woman with red hair overheard the conversation. She turned around in her seat to face Marcus. "I saw the whole thing too. You and your family were just laughing quietly together. She was completely out of line." More passengers started joining the conversation. Many of them had witnessed Karen's treatment of the Johnson family, and they wanted to show their support. "My name is Helen Baker," said a middle-aged woman. "I'm a teacher, and I know inappropriate behavior when I see it. That flight attendant was wrong." A young man with glasses spoke up. "I recorded the whole thing on my tablet. If you need witnesses, we're here for you." Marcus felt overwhelmed by the kindness these strangers were showing his family. "Thank you all," he said. "Your support means everything to us." Lisa squeezed her husband's hand. "See," she whispered to him, "most people are good. There are always more good people than bad people." Alex and Maya were listening to all the passengers defend their family. The children felt better knowing that so many people cared about fairness and treating others with respect. Suddenly, the ship's speakers crackled to life again. Captain Rodriguez's voice sounded nervous and shaky. "Ladies and gentlemen, we will be receiving a visit from another ship shortly. Please remain calm and stay in your seats. This is a routine matter that will be resolved quickly." The passengers looked at each other with confusion. What kind of routine matter required stopping in the middle of space? Marcus checked his communication device. He had received a message from Captain Hayes. Arriving in 15 minutes, justice is coming. Karen Wright was still on the bridge, trying to understand what was happening. Captain Rodriguez was pacing back and forth, reading and rereading. The messages from Earth Defense Command. "Captain," Karen said weakly, "surely this is all just a misunderstanding. They're just one family. How important could they really be?" Captain Rodriguez stopped pacing and looked at Karen with disbelief. "Karen, Dr. Johnson's work has kept humanity safe in a dangerous galaxy. His research has saved more lives than any doctor or soldier. His family is traveling to Kepler 442b because there might be intelligent life there, and he's the only person qualified to make peaceful contact." Karen felt sick to her stomach. She was beginning to understand the magnitude of her mistake. Outside, the ship space was about to light up with the arrival of one of humanity's most powerful vessels. The passengers pressed their faces against the windows of the New Horizon as a massive shadow appeared in space. The ship that was approaching them was enormous, bigger than any passenger vessel they had ever seen. Its hull was dark gray with bright blue lights running along its sides. "What is that thing?" asked the businessman who had been complaining about the delay. The elderly retired military man looked out the window and felt his breath catch in his throat. "That's the Endeavor," he whispered. "I've only seen pictures of it before." Other passengers gathered around the windows to get a better look. The Endeavor was legendary among space travelers. It was humanity's most advanced exploration and diplomatic ship. Most people only heard stories about it, but now it was floating right next to them. Marcus Johnson remained calm in his seat, but Lisa could see the tension in his shoulders. Alex and Maya were excited to see such a famous ship, but they could tell their parents were worried about something. "Dad, why is that big ship here?" Maya asked. "They're here to help us," Marcus replied simply. On the bridge of the New Horizon, Captain Rodriguez was receiving another message. This time it came directly from the Endeavor. "Captain Rodriguez, this is Captain Benjamin Hayes of the Earth vessel. Endeavor, we are requesting permission to board your ship immediately." Captain Rodriguez had heard of Captain Hayes. The man was a legend in the space service. He had commanded the Endeavor during humanity's most important diplomatic missions. "Permission granted, Captain Hayes," Rodriguez replied. "May I ask what this is about?" "We're here to ensure the safety of some very important passengers," Captain Hayes answered. "We'll explain everything when we board." Karen Wright was still on the bridge, and she felt her knees getting weak. Ships like the Endeavor didn't come to help with small problems. They only appeared when something major was happening. "Captain Rodriguez," Karen said quietly, "maybe I should go back to work. I'm sure this has nothing to do with me." "You're staying right here," Captain Rodriguez ordered. "I have a feeling this has everything to do with you." Within minutes, a small shuttlecraft left the Endeavor and docked with the New Horizon. The airlock opened, and 6 people in official uniforms stepped aboard. The leader was a tall woman, with short brown hair and the confident walk of someone used to command. Captain Rodriguez met them at the airlock. "I'm Captain Rodriguez. Welcome aboard the New Horizon." The woman in charge stepped forward. "I'm Commander Janet Price from the Endeavor's Diplomatic Corps. We're here regarding the Johnson family." "The Johnson family," Captain Rodriguez repeated. He glanced at Karen, who was now shaking visibly. "Yes. We understand there was an incident involving threats made against Dr. Marcus Johnson and his family. We take such matters very seriously." Commander Price walked through the ship with her team. Passengers stared as the official group moved through the aisles. Everyone could tell these were important people on an important mission. When Commander Price reached the Johnson family's seats, she stopped and smiled warmly. "Dr. Johnson, I'm Commander Price. Captain Hayes sends his regards." Marcus stood up and shook her hand. "Thank you for coming, Janet. I didn't expect such a response. Dr. Johnson, you and your family are among humanity's most valuable citizens. What happened to you today is completely unacceptable." The passengers around them were listening with growing amazement. They were beginning to understand that the quiet man they had defended was someone very special. Commander Price turned to Lisa and the children. "Mrs. Johnson, Alex, Maya, I want you to know that what happened to your family today does not represent how humanity values you. You are respected and protected." Alex looked up at Commander Price with wide eyes. Are you here because of what the mean lady said to us? Yes, Alex. No one has the right to treat your family badly. Your father has done more good for humanity than almost anyone alive. The elderly retired military man who had supported the Johnson family earlier stood up slowly. Commander, if I may ask, what exactly has Dr. Johnson done? Commander Price looked at Marcus, who nodded his permission to explain. Dr. Johnson is the architect of humanity's peaceful contact protocols with alien species. His work has prevented multiple wars and saved millions of lives. He's personally negotiated peace treaties with 12 different alien civilizations. The two passengers gasped. They had been sitting next to one of humanity's greatest heroes without knowing it. Commander Price continued. Dr. Johnson also developed the communication methods we use to talk with aliens. Without his work, humanity might still be fighting wars across the galaxy instead of exploring peacefully. Helen Baker, the teacher who had defended the family, spoke up. So when that flight attendant threatened Dr. Johnson's family, she was threatening someone who has saved all of us? Exactly, Commander Price replied. And that's why we're here. Meanwhile, Captain Rodriguez had brought Karen Wright down from the bridge to face the diplomatic team. Karen's face was white with fear as she realized the magnitude of her actions. Commander, Price looked at Karen with cold, professional eyes. Are you the crew member who threatened the Johnson family? Karen could barely speak. I was just trying to maintain order on the ship. By threatening to remove one of humanity's most important diplomatic figures and his family? Commander Price asked. I didn't know who he was, Karen whispered. That's exactly the problem, Commander Price replied firmly. You didn't care who he was. You saw a black family enjoying themselves quietly and you decided they didn't belong on your ship. The passengers who had gathered to watch were silent. They could see that Karen was in serious trouble. Marcus stepped forward. Commander Price, I appreciate your response, but I don't want this to ruin anyone's life. I just want my family to be treated with basic respect. Commander Price looked at Marcus with admiration. Dr. Johnson, your kindness is one of the reasons you're so good at your job, but some lessons need to be learned the hard way. She turned back to Karen. Ms. Wright, you are no longer qualified to work on any ship carrying passengers. Your actions today endangered a critical diplomatic mission and showed complete disregard for human dignity. Karen started crying. Please, this job is all I have. I made a mistake. You made a choice, Commander Price corrected. You chose to judge people by their appearance instead of their character. In space, where we meet beings from other worlds, that kind of thinking is dangerous. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. Commander, what happens now? Dr. Johnson and his family will continue their journey under full diplomatic protection. Ms. Wright will be removed from duty and face formal charges, and this incident will be reported to ensure it never happens again. Commander Price turned to address all the passengers who had gathered. Ladies and gentlemen, you are witnessing something important today. The man sitting in seat 24A has dedicated his life to teaching different species how to live together in peace. The woman who threatened him represents the old way of thinking that keeps people apart. She looked directly at the Johnson family. Dr. Johnson, your mission to Kepler 442b is more important than ever. Early scans suggest there may be intelligent life on that planet. Humanity will once again need your skills to make peaceful contact. Marcus nodded seriously. We'll be ready, Commander. As Commander Price prepared to leave with her team, she had one final message for everyone aboard the New Horizon. Remember this day. Remember that heroes come in all colors and from all backgrounds. And remember that treating people with dignity and respect isn't just the right thing to do. It's what makes us human. Karen Wright sat in the ship's security office with tears running down her face. Two security officers from the Endeavour stood nearby, waiting to escort her off the New Horizon. Her career was over, and she knew it was her own fault. Captain Rodriguez looked at Karen with disappointment in his eyes. Karen, in 20 years of commanding ships, I've never seen anything like this. You had one of humanity's greatest heroes sitting in your passenger section, and you treated him like a criminal. I didn't know, Karen said again. But the words, sounded empty even to her. That's the point, Captain Rodriguez replied. You should treat every passenger with respect, regardless of who they are or what they look like. While Karen faced the consequences of her actions, something wonderful was happening in the passenger section. The other travelers had gathered around the Johnson family, wanting to learn more about Marcus's work. The elderly retired military man introduced himself properly. Dr. Johnson, my name is Frank Miller. I served in the Space Marines for 30 years. I want to thank you for keeping humanity safe. Marcus shook Frank's hand warmly. Thank you, Frank. But I couldn't do my work without people like you protecting our borders. Helen Baker, the teacher, was talking with Lisa about education. Mrs. Johnson, I heard Commander Price mention that you work with alien psychology. That must be fascinating. Lisa smiled. It is. Understanding how different species think and feel is crucial for building peaceful relationships. Alex and Maya were enjoying all the attention. The young man with glasses who had recorded Karen's behavior was showing them pictures of different alien species on his tablet. Your parents are like superheroes, the young man said to the twins. They help humans and aliens become friends instead of enemies. Maya looked proud. Dad always says that talking is better than fighting. Your father is very wise, said the young woman with red hair. The galaxy is a much safer place because of people like your parents. Commander Price had finished her official business and was preparing to return to the Endeavor. Before leaving, she came to speak with the Johnson family one more time. Dr. Johnson, Captain Hayes wanted me to give you this, she said, handing Marcus a small device. It's a direct communication link to the Endeavor. If you encounter any problems during the rest of your journey, use it immediately. Marcus accepted the device gratefully. Thank you, Commander. I hope we won't need it. So do I, Commander Price replied. But your safety is our top priority. She turned to the other passengers who had supported the Johnson family. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing up for what's right today. Your actions show the best of humanity. Frank Miller stood up straighter. Commander, it was our duty. Good people should always defend other good people. That's exactly right, Mr. Miller, Commander Price agreed. That's what makes humanity strong in a galaxy full of different species. As Commander Price and her team prepared to leave, Captain Rodriguez made an announcement over the ship's speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to apologize for the incident that occurred earlier today. The crew member responsible has been removed from duty. Dr. Johnson and his family have my complete support and protection for the remainder of our journey. Passengers in the Johnson family section started clapping. Soon people throughout the entire ship were applauding. Marcus felt overwhelmed by the show of support. Speech! Speech! Called out Helen Baker. Marcus stood up slowly. He wasn't used to being the center of attention like this, but he felt he should say something. Thank you all for your kindness today, Marcus began. What happened earlier was unfortunate, but it showed me something important. It showed me that most people are good and fair. When you saw injustice, you spoke up. That's exactly the kind of courage humanity needs as we explore the galaxy. More applause filled the passenger section. Marcus continued, My family and I are traveling to Kepler 442b because we believe there might be intelligent life there. If we're right, it will be humanity's 13th first contact with an alien species. But I'm not worried about making a good impression on these new aliens because I know humanity is represented by people like all of you. The passengers were deeply moved by Marcus's words. Many of them had tears in their eyes. Lisa stood up next to her husband. I want to add something, she said. Today you all learned that my husband has an important job, but that's not why you defended us. You defended us because you saw a family being treated unfairly and you knew it was wrong. That's the real strength of humanity. Alex raised his hand like he was in school. Can I say something too? Of course, son, Marcus said with a smile. Alex looked around at all the passengers. I was scared when that lady was mean to us, but then all of you were nice to us and I wasn't scared anymore. Thank you for being our friends. The passengers smiled and clapped for the brave young boy. Maya stood up too. I want to be like Mom and Dad when I grow up. I want to help people from different worlds become friends. You already are helping, said Helen Baker. "Just by being yourselves, your family shows other species that humans can be kind and good." "Commander." Price was watching this scene with great satisfaction. "Dr. Johnson, this is why your work is so important. You don't just negotiate with aliens, you show them the best of what humanity can be." As the diplomatic team from the Endeavour finally departed, the New Horizon resumed its journey to Kepler 442b. But something had changed aboard the ship. The passengers felt more connected to each other and more proud of being human. Frank Miller moved to a seat closer to the Johnson family. "Dr. Johnson, would you mind telling us about some of your adventures with alien species? I think we'd all like to learn more." For the rest of the journey, Marcus shared stories of his work with different alien civilizations. He told them about the peaceful crystal beings of Altair 7, the highly intelligent water creatures of Oceanus Prime, and the friendly plant people of New Eden. Lisa talked about how she studied alien emotions and helped humans understand how other species felt and thought. Alex and Maya shared their excitement about possibly meeting new alien friends on their new home planet. Karen Wright was transferred to the Endeavour, where she would face charges for endangering a diplomatic mission. As she was led away, she finally understood the lesson she had learned too late. In a galaxy full of different species and different kinds of people, treating others with respect wasn't just polite, it was essential for survival. 3 days later, the New Horizon approached Kepler 442b. As they got closer to the planet, the ship's sensors detected something amazing. There were definitely signs of intelligent life on the surface. Marcus looked out the window at his new home planet with excitement and determination. Soon, he and his family would be making history again, showing another alien species that humans could be trusted friends. The other passengers watched too, knowing they had witnessed something special during their journey. They had seen how one person's prejudice could cause harm, but they had also seen how many people's kindness could overcome hatred. As the New Horizon prepared to land on Kepler 442b, humanity was ready to make its 13th peaceful contact with an alien species. And it was all possible because of a quiet man who had been just trying to travel with his family, and the good people who had stood up for what was right.